Hello, my beloveds. This is Georgia Ashara here, and welcome to this channel. Thank you for everyone who's already here. And if you're not, of course, please subscribe, like, and share this video if it resonates with you. And today we're going to be talking about light language and light codes, and so you can see how this works for you in your everyday life and the greater picture of what this is for our planetary evolution and humanity's consciousness and awareness and what we're here to truly manifest and embody into this world. And a little background about me quickly. So I'm a sacred feminine arts practitioner, and I'm also a light language channeler. And this is something that has come through for me for many years now, and it's much part of my life. It's just integrated here every single day. It's here for my medicine, for my own journey, and to share with others and support others in that. So I hope you enjoy this video. Now, so a few things that we're going to cover is the sounding, the artwork, and then also movement as well, and how this can reflect out just through even the embodiment of these codes and this information that's within us. So the light language, the sounding, quite often when this comes online, so many people perceive this as something that is maybe of star origins or like an ancient language. And then people start to tap into multidimensional awareness of who they are. So these sound vibrations can come from many different parts of the dimensions of the universe, the star systems, even here on Earth. You can tap into the Fae language, you can tap into the vibrations of, Sirius, for example. And some people will be very much just with one sound vibration, and some will be with many different ones. It will all depend on the person and what they're here to bring and the medicine that they're working with most predominantly. And these vibrations and these languages are really sound vibrations. So they're not creating like such of a language in most cases as we do when we're speaking now. So I'm giving you a very linear perspective of what this is, and you're getting an understanding through the words. And what happens with the sound is it gives this inner understanding of us, and it actually creates these vibrations and these codes and patterns in our body. So if you imagine that your body is made up of geometry, it's made up of light and geometry. And when we start to make these sounds around into someone's body, or just in your own environment, someone's there or you're there and doing it to yourself, you will start to feel the shift in your body as the geometry starts to rearrange itself into a more harmonious vibration. So these geometries start to become maybe more complex, more in a rhythmic pattern that is more harmonious to, say, like the Christic pattern, which is like this infinite spiral. We're quite familiar with the pi or the golden ratio. And these are the symbols that help us to harmonize back in with the earth and back in with the universe. So this is where sometimes people get triggered into also sounding their own light codes and language, because then they become a part of that symphony of creating through the universe with the sound vibrations. It can also create healing, because if our water in our body, which is also crystalline and creates geometry and patterns, when we've been, saying lots of negative self-beliefs of ourselves, then the geometry isn't going to be there. It's not going to be a healthy, sustaining life force. Whereas if we start to sound and regularly sound these vibrations, we start to shift the molecular structure of the water, and this in turn would look like geometry. Now, this is something that's coming through from my perspective. It's a download that I've received on this. So I want to just take that pause to say, look, you feel into this and what's true for you. I don't have the scientific evidence of this in such, but there is such thing as Dr. Emoto's work, who did the experiment with the water and with the rice, where they said positive things to the water, positive things, and negative things to the water, and they could see the crystalline structure and how it had patterned to look like a beautiful geometric snowflake with the positive language, and then the negative language, it actually created more of a slushy mess. It just didn't look the same. And for me, this is the awareness that I have with these codes. So these codes are creating that through, and I call them codes because the sounding, it's a symphony, it's a sound, they're little symbols that then create and make up this entire geometry. And this is what's reshifting and rewiring into our system so that we can, again, become more harmonious with nature, with the universe, with our own internal body system, so that it can run on this life force with divine life force. Because the divinity, the divine, is always wanting to create the geometries and those symbols, and that's what wants to emerge through us and from us at this time, particularly. This is where this raise and fluctuation of people starting to channel sound vibrations, sound codes. And so then that's the sound. And then we have the codes and the symbols in the artwork. And again, this is very much the similar principle, but what we're seeing here is a symbol that has all of these little symbols and geometry already written there. Maybe someone has made a picture of a star being of some kind, perhaps, and because it's a message from maybe this particular star lineage, and they put the codes around them, for instance. Or you have symbols where it's just all the symbols written down. And what this is creating is that mirror reflection through the eyes. The eyes are witnessing something that is actually what's within us, and it's opening that remembrance so that we can start to allow those codes to come into our awareness in the more etheric sense as well. So when we see it in the physical, we then start to witness that, oh, that is something that is a part of me. And I can come back into harmony with those vibrations, that pattern. I can come back into the harmony with that star being. I can come back into the harmony to pure source divine creation. By witnessing that geometry, witnessing that symbol, we're accepting that if we willingly want to accept it, that we can allow that to start to shift and create geometry in our body as well. We can set that intention to intentionally say, hey, I see a beautiful symbol and I am ready to receive it in my body and receive that information, receive that healing, receive those vibrations. And they'll have maybe different specific meanings. For instance, peace, someone could literally create a geometry that represents this divine, pure, loving, peaceful vibration and this pattern. And when you start to witness it, it starts to feel like it's coming into a part of you and restructuring you as the body of the geometry. And so while it also does that, there are many other ways that we can use these codes as well, which is why I do have a course where you receive a light code symbol that I have drawn, and then I give you all the different steps that you can take to work with this symbol so that you can actually restructure the vibrational patterns within yourself. So yes, that is one way. And for an example of something that we see that actually is coming directly from star beings many times, and we see the evidence of healing in crop circles. And crop circles are, areas that have been flattened of these crops, but it's creating this sacred geometry. And people have been known to stand into these geometries and receive these symbols and receive the healing that from that geometry, from that particular shape, and whatever energy has been encoded there by whoever has created that crop circle. So this is evidence that we see that's happening out there as well. And I believe that this is what's happening with these light code symbols and artwork that's being created. It's there as a mirror and a reflection for us. It's like looking into the mirror, looking into the eyes of your soul, We can do the same with artwork. Artwork has many images and messages. And we can even, again, look at Da Vinci, who also used sacred geometry in his artwork. So it looks actually like it's, people and things, very much in this world, but he's actually encoded all the sacred geometry within it because that is what you're subconsciously receiving for the healing of awareness, because the universe speaks in geometry, speaks in sound, speaks in colors and vibrations. Okay, so here we are. We've moved on to now to movement. Okay, so movement can be where we're moving our hands and doing codes and symbols and flowing with energy and working with energy. And again, we could actually be opening and creating geometry when we're moving our hands in a certain way. We're restructuring and moving the energy in our body to intuitively flow more freely with energy. And we see this with Qigong, because specifically with Qigong, you notice that there are moves and that are very precise, but they are there to precisely move. And then we can become more intuitive with that. And it's the same, I believe, this part for me more than anything else. I think the sound as well, but well, actually all of it, but definitely with the movement that you see is where Kundalini Shakti is actually moving so freely within someone that they're able to work and heal themselves, and they're able to use their hands and the energy. It's like an extension of their life force. So it just starts to move and recreate the symbols. We even sometimes draw symbols with our hands as well into the air, into the atmosphere, but it's like in our physical body, our energetic body, sorry. So it's like the energetics are getting these little symbols and codes like placed in it as well. And how we can see this not even just in Qigong, but we do see this when people activate their Kundalini. There's a very big craze right now with this Kundalini activations, and you see people doing that. And I find that super fascinating for me because many, many years ago, maybe between 2018 and 2020, I would say, around that time where I had no idea about these Kundalini activations, whether it existed or not, I have no idea. But during that time, I would hold sessions for people one-on-one, doing these light codes and these symbols, and I would be moving my hands and supporting their field, and they would be shaking and moving, very much like what we see in this Kundalini activation process. So I see how these activating your light language and your life force and these symbols, having an awareness and being in tune with these symbols actually can support people in moving and opening up into their life force energy. So this is what this is all doing and having a different impact, I'm sure, on many different people in different ways. And finally, I wanted to speak about the embodiment and the awareness of this and what this is like to when you've worked through this a lot through your body, through your field. Even though you can obviously still do the movement and the sound, and it's very impactful. There is this sense that actually being just around people with this energy starts to be picked up through other people, and other people are then in your field, because there are evidence to say that, when you are around people, you start to get certain things from them, certain habits. Might not be always good things, could be their sort of language and their behavior patterns that maybe are not so healthy. Women tend to sync cycles with their menstruation, which is a very tangible evidence that we see with us being reflections of one another and mirroring and syncing in with each other. Because I believe that it's not just because they're women and they're menstruating, and so I think it's just because there is actually something going on all the time, even with those who, even with men and other people who don't necessarily menstruate, but we're just syncing in with each other. And because when we're moving as a collective and as a collective consciousness, it's much easier to all move in that same rhythmic pattern, right? So we start to see that. Now, of course, it's hard being that only person in a way that's holding those codes. You have to really work on that to hold that, whilst maybe the other people are not in that same synchronization with you. But when you are holding it, you are then helping them to still be in that experience with it. If you can hold that enough, if you have enough discipline and devotion to the codes, then walking that path, you then light up those on the path as well. So yes, don't feel like you always have to be so active with all of your codes all the time. You can just be in a place and just know that these codes are transferring. We do this with sacred sites. Sometimes we feel guided into a sacred site or somewhere really dense. Like I've spent a lot of time over the years going to very dense places where there's a lot of trauma and suffering that is happening in those places. And I am just there to be of a different vibration of that to help to clear that through the field. You know, we can sometimes clear dark magic and things like that through the field because we're holding these codes of harmony with divine creation. And we start to reweave that into the geometries of that area and place where maybe some dark magic has happened, and where trauma sort of things have happened, you know? So it's a very powerful thing to just hold that knowing and that awareness with your heart and just saying, hey, like, this is something I hold, and if you are open to receiving this and changing your geometry in this place and space, then here we are. Here is this new code that you can start to embody. And there it is. There is a little bit more to it than that, but of course, at the very basics, then you are embodying that and walking through with that in everyday life. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this video.